Welcome back to Cottage Designs by Erin, where today we are in my backyard and we are going to be talking about bucket gardening. I started gardening in buckets 6 years ago when my first grandson was born, and I did this as a way to save money for both myself and my daughter's family. Okay, here's the holder that they're in. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about this, what works and what doesn't. Okay, so as I said, I started bucket gardening 6 years ago when my first grandson was born. I saw the plans for this bucket garden on Pinterest, and I have a very handy son-in-law who's very good at basically making anything he sees. So he built these holders for me, and I have got 24 buckets in 2 wooden holders. And it works out great because none of us have time to actually till up our yard and maintain that the way that it should be. It's hard to weed a full yard. So this is a very lazy way of gardening and still reaping the benefits. So let me show you. First, I have lettuce. Okay, and it's clearly ready to be cut. So the lettuce was grown from seed, and you just plant I need to cut this off. You don't pull lettuce out, because if you pull it out, you have ruined the crop. You cut it off and let it continue to grow. So the second one is mixed lettuce. It's of an Italian variety. Here I have red peppers, red bell peppers, and I have the same in this bucket as well. So let me go. Okay, so I had Andrew go to Lowe's for me and buy all these 5-gallon buckets. It was an initial investment. The original wood and the buckets and everything, it cost me probably $200 to get this bucket garden started. But like I've told you, I've had it for 6 years. Once I planted lettuce seed, and I had a 4-year run on that lettuce seed. It came up every year just like clockwork, and it usually starts to sprout in about March. And so it's a self-starter. You don't have to do anything but get it in the soil. So let me talk to you about the buckets. All of these buckets have had holes drilled in them. Let me go around here to the other side. This used to look a little bit neater. I'm actually outside trying to clean it up today. Let me see if you can see. Well, you can't see it, but all of these have had holes drilled in the bottom of them. And you want to make sure that you do that because you have to have drainage. Especially in southern Illinois in the spring, we tend to get a lot of water here. And if the water sits in the bucket, it will mold your plants. So you don't want that to happen. So now let's talk about what can you grow successfully in these bucket gardens. As you can see, my lettuce has done great. I bought a package of seed from Walmart for $3. And I have had this lettuce. This is the 2-year run on it. So I've been growing lettuce for 2 years for $3. You can't even buy a head of that at Walmart for $3. Okay. I have great success in the bucket garden with cherry tomatoes. I have grown carrots by seed, but you're also going to have a lot of carrots to feed a family. Like you're going to need probably at least 4 buckets of carrots because it doesn't sprout that many at once. Cherry tomatoes are a huge hit. Roma tomatoes grow fabulously in buckets. So what I do is I get Miracle-Gro potting soil and I put that about halfway up in the bucket. I have my little handy dandy spade here and I dig a hole in the middle. I fill the hole up with water. And the reason you want to do that is because you want it to have moisture to begin with when you get it in there, get the seed or the plant in. But you don't want to drown it because you don't want any kind of mold issues. So put a little bit of water in the bottom, put your plant in, cover it up. Next, I go back with a bag of Miracle-Gro that's specifically for food that you eat so that it's not contaminated with chemicals. And I put a little bit of Miracle-Gro around that. And then I come out and I water this. If it doesn't rain, I water it about every other day. I don't water it every day because I don't want it to get too much water. I have had success with radishes, potatoes, all kinds of tomatoes. Banana peppers grow very well in buckets. And where do I get my plants? If I'm really hard up, I'll buy a plant at Walmart. I try not to do that because Walmart's plants are not always the healthiest, and they are costing this year in my area, they're $5 a plant. So I try to go to local nurseries first to make sure that I get healthy plants. Oh, excuse me, so sorry. So as you can see, my lettuce was very healthy. The cherry tomatoes are making a huge growth spurt here. I also use, let me go over here. I do use tomato cages that you can buy at Walmart for my tomatoes and peppers, because after they get so tall, the weight of the plants tends to weigh it down. So you will need to cage some things that grow very tall. Other things that I've grown, you can grow spices in buckets. I've had great success with strawberries. And strawberries, you will need a lot of strawberry plants to get any kind of harvest off of that. So for strawberry plants, I'd say you need a good 6 or 8 to actually be able to do anything with it. What do I do with this stuff? Okay, so we have a lady at church that gives free eggs every Sunday because we live in a rural area. I am known for making frittatas out of this. All it takes is a handful of tomatoes and a couple peppers and 4 to 6 eggs, and you've got yourself a meal. So I highly recommend bucket gardening as a way to save money, a way to grow organic food. And if you really wanted to get in this hot and heavy and actually can it, I don't grow enough for canning, I just grow enough for sharing. But if you wanted to can your own food, you would have to have a large raised bed garden, or this time of year, you might even need a hothouse in Southern Illinois to get that started. Now, you can start your seeds inside on any kind of table, and then you'll have your plants ready to grow, which will cost you next to nothing. I'm trying to think what else I've had success with. So back to where I buy my plants at. I buy them at local nurseries. I also like Rural King plants, and I like plants from Lowe's. I've had great success with plants from Lowe's. And the nice thing about going to a larger supplier like that is it'll have on the outside of the packaging, can this be grown in what's called container gardening? Okay, they're not going to call it a bucket garden, but they're going to call it a container gardening. And then if you go and you read more closely, it'll say can be grown in buckets. And it'll tell you how many you can put in a bucket. Now, things I've tried to grow that did not work. I had no success with eggplants that were designated to be grown in containers. Mine never did anything. Trying to think what else. I didn't have any luck with blueberries, but it might have just been the plant. I think I could do this easily with blueberries. So this year I have about $100 invested, and that is mainly soil, because you do have to aerate your soil, which means you go in with your spade and chop it up real good so that it can get some air, and then you put new fresh soil in every year. Because it's not actually in the ground, you need to add nutrients, so fresh soil is always good. Crushed up eggs are excellent to add niacin to the soil. There's all kinds of things you can add in, and you can Google all that. But so what kind of yield am I getting off of this? Off of 2 Roma tomato plants, I'm guaranteed at least 100 tomatoes a season. Off the lettuce, I'm going to get probably 3 runs off of it. So it's excellent. This is an excellent way to be healthy, save money, and also it's a good skill to pass down to future generations. I have my grandsons help me. They haven't been over here yet, but they're like, Shasha, is it time to garden yet? Well, I haven't bought all the plants. As soon as I get out of school, I'm going to do everything. But I've got a little bit started right now, and then they come over and they like to get their hands dirty and they like to dig around in it. And I always make it a point to let them pick, because they need to see the fruit of their labor. They need to see that, hey, you know, your vegetables don't come from the grocery store, okay? They come from a plant, and they like to come over and pick the tomatoes, and they feel big when they get to carrot in the house. You know, it's a big deal. They loved seeing the little baby carrots that I pulled up. They're like, oh, are those the kind of carrots that bunny rabbits eat? Yes, as a matter of fact, they are. So it's a good experience all the way around. If you would like to see the plans on how to build this bucket garden, you can go to Pinterest and type in bucket garden, and I'm sure they will come up. You can buy 5-gallon buckets anywhere they're sold, any hardware store like Lowe's or Home Depot. I get all my soil from Walmart, plants from various places, and then you're good to go. So when Andrew first built this for me, it was about a $200 investment. 6 years later, it's still going. So I hope you learned something from my video.